I've got a bit of a confession to make. I've got a bit of a soft spot for Lexus. Now that's down to my late father. You see, he was a Toyota man. I learned to drive in his 1987 Camry, and he had a couple of those. And he had some Land Cruisers as well. He loved Toyotas. But the car he always aspired to was Lexus, and he knew that the sign would be when he had done really well for himself was the day that he could go and buy himself a Lexus. And that day finally came, and he plumped for an LS400, and he loved that car. He loved it so much, and it was so good that he changed it for another LS400. Now the LS400 was born out of Toyota's desire to make the best car in the world. It wanted to compete with the likes of BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi and Jaguar, but it also knew that no one would spend that level of money instead of one of those other brands on a car that wore a Toyota badge. And so whilst Toyota threw all its engineering and design might behind creating the LS400 to sell it, to market it, it created the Lexus brand back in 1989. And thus Lexus was born. Now since then, Lexus has gained itself a very good reputation as the builder of large, luxurious and very refined cars within its contemporaries. The problem is, however, the world has changed somewhat. And these days, whilst we don't want to give up on those little luxuries that we're used to, we might also not want to be seen as driving around in large, ostentatious luxury cars. So downsizing is the new buzzword. The problem is, however, not many of those manufacturers have managed to do it well. BMW have even bought another brand in which to do it with, Mini. Mercedes-Benz are trying something similar with Smart, but not getting it quite right. Audi tried with the technological and very forward-thinking A2, but it was a bit of a sales disaster. And I think the least said about Jaguar, the better. Well, now it's Lexus's turn, and they've given us this. Is it any good? Time to find out in this week's new car review. As I say welcome to the new Lexus LBX, please sit yourself down, make yourself comfortable in the house of cars. Now before I get started on this week's new car review of the Lexus LBX, could I ask a little favour of you? Would you mind being so kind as to making sure that you're subscribed to the House of Cars channel? Once you've done that, press the little bell button down below, because that way you'll get notified when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live and you won't miss another one. Once you've watched it, if you enjoy it, which I hope you will, then please make sure that you give it a little thumbs up. And then of course, don't forget, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the cars I review, such as the LBX from Lexus, and of course the House of Cars channel as a whole. Now in terms of economics, if you're going to build a small car, you're going to have to make it less expensive to buy, which means that you're going to have to make it less expensive to build. And the easiest way to do that is to take something that's already there and put your bits and pieces onto it, in rudimentary terms. Now Lexus is quite fortunate because obviously it's part of Toyota, it's owned by Toyota. And if Toyota, of course, have the rather excellent little Yaris Cross, which is a car that we've reviewed on the channel and is also Europe's best-selling B-segment SUV crossover. So they've already got something that's there. However, what you can't do is just take something like a Yaris Cross, slap a bit of leather in it, a bit of chrome on it, and charge premium money for it. That type of practice went out when they did it with the Austin Allegra and turned it into a Vanden Plas. Plus as well, in fairness, Lexus are a little bit more thorough and dare I suggest a bit more honourable than that. So how different is the LBX to the Yaris Cross that it's based on? And does it deserve the premium price for the premium badge? But before we start, let's take a snapshot of the main points surrounding the new Lexus LBX. So the LBX is the smallest car that the brand has produced, designed to compete in the very competitive B-segment crossover SUV market. It's powered by a 1.5 litre 3-cylinder engine mated to a small capacity self-charging hybrid system, with even the option of all-wheel drive on higher trim levels. It delivers a total power output of 134 brake horsepower through an eCVT transmission. 4 basic trim levels are available in the UK, with prices starting from £29,995 and rising to just over £40,000, depending on which of those trim levels you choose. Now, people aren't silly. They're not going to pay a premium price, even if it has a premium badge, for a car if it doesn't have that premium feel. But more important than that, is it a proper Lexus? Time to find out. Right, let's kick off with how it looks. And of course, immediately you can see that it doesn't look anything like a Toyota Yaris Cross. And that's despite the fact that it sits on the same GAB global platform that the Yaris Cross is underpinned by. But the Lexus is different in its dimensions. It's actually 60mm wider. And a lot of that's on the front as well. The front track is wider, but that's more to do with the handling and stuff. But I'll get onto that a little bit later on. This car is sort of, although there's 4 kind of basic trim levels within the LBX range, this is a sort of 5th one, if you like. This is like but it's like the 5th Beetle because its days are numbered. It's the open edition, or the opening edition car, I think they call it. And they're only building a small number of these to get the car established and launched. It's very similar to the Takumi design top of the range car in terms of its specifications. So just bear that in mind as we're going around it. Right, design. Let's have a look at what we've got here. Well, of course, the first thing that's going to strike you is that it doesn't have the kind of big Lexus spindle grille. It has what Lexus designers call a deconstructed spindle grille. But you can see it's there. It's just kind of down the bottom there, whereas the big SUVs have got that big kind of tall grille with the straights going through it. For the LBX, they've tried to make a slightly more youthful, slightly more kind of sporty looking car. And I put sporty in inverted commas, but I think they've done quite a nice job round the front. And as I say, there's still that element of Lexus design there that obviously that draws it in comparison with the other cars within the range, but still stands it apart as being a slightly smaller, more, dare I suggest, youthful looking car. You've got this lovely kind of satin chrome blade that runs across the top of it into these LED single lamp headlights here with the DRLs that run across the top there, very kind of signature Lexus got a tick there. And then down at the bottom, depending on the model, you get these lovely little front driving lamps there tucked in at the side there, and again these kind of sort of L-shaped trim bits round the side there, again a Lexus signature. This particular car's finished in this, I think it's called Sonic Copper with the black roof, and I have to say I really like it. It really stands the car out, especially on the black wheels, and I'm not normally a lover of black wheels. There's a tiny little bit of tech on the car, obviously, because again it's a Lexus and they want to sort of like show you that it still has all the luxury trappings of its larger cars. So of course you get tech at the front. You get a forward facing camera which is just tucked in there. You get your sensor for your radar guided cruise control there, and of course the obligatory parking sensors across the front. But as I say, from initial viewing it looks nothing like the Yaris Cross, and as I say, unless you really knew that Toyota and Lexus were part of the same group, you'd never know what was underneath this car. But as it gets round the other side of the car, more of it starts to change. Now, the first thing that you notice as you come round the side of it is it looks less like an SUV than the Yaris Cross because it sits a little bit lower. It's still a B segment SUV slash crossover, whatever they want to call it. So of course you get your obligatory plastic wheel arch extensions and lower body cladding, but there's not the kind of off-road stance that the Yaris Cross has. Dimensions are very different as well. The car is 10mm longer than the Yaris Cross, but interestingly the wheelbase is 20mm longer. The bonnet is also longer as well, so again it's designed more longer bonnet, cabin pushed further to the back to give it that more kind of dynamic sort of like sporting stance that Lexus is after. 17-inch alloy wheels are standard on the range, though you move up to these 18s depending obviously on trim level. And as I say, these ones are quite nice to finish in that kind of matte kind of black finish here on this opening edition car, and you get the large Lexus door mirrors as well, with again sort of like other Lexus signatures like the beautiful kind of door handles here that don't actually pull out. They're called E-latch, so there's just a little pressure pad behind them, so as you push that, that's all it takes to open the door. And there's lots of little nice touches around the car, both outside and inside, that follow that similar theme. Privacy glass here, and then of course this sort of like C-pillar at the back here. You've got this textured finish on it, nice roof spoiler, a little flash of chrome across the top there, shark fin aerial, and then your fuel filler cap on this side. Handsome little car, and as I say, a little bit more sporty looking, whereas the Yaris Cross is a bit more SUV like. So as I say, it's certainly shaping up to look a lot more Lexus like. Now, as we come round the back, you realise that I really should think about things before I say it, because the car's actually called an original edition, not an opening edition. Sorry, it's been a long, hot day already so far. But ladies and gentlemen, the 5th Beetle, the original edition. There we go. Right, what have we got? Well, we have the signature Lexus light bar that runs across, the L-shaped light bar that goes across there, which is, I think, really, really nice. And of course, you don't get the big L badge now, you get the open space Lexus lettering, as you'll see on the larger cars. And a lot of manufacturers are now doing that kind of big open space lettering across the back. Yeah, LBX nomenclature there, a nice low set number plate down there as well. Roof spoiler at the top, rear wiper, like that. Reversing camera tucked underneath there, and some nice little bits of kind of silverized trim at the bottom, and again, like the front, those kind of L bits of trim there. The designers say it's been inspired by the Kajami Mochi rice cake. I kid you not, which seemingly is a religious offering that's given at New Year, and it's basically 2 discs, 2 rice cakes, a wider disc at the bottom and then a slightly narrower disc that's then placed on top. So what you then have is, the designers are telling us that you have this kind of compact nature of the upper body section mounted on a more powerful stance lower section. Kajami Mochi. Anyway, that's what it said. But I have to say, I think it's quite a good looking little car, I really do. As I say, so far, as I say, it looks much more sporty, but more luxurious than the Yaris Cross, which I really like the look of, I really do, but that's got a much more kind of SUV-like stance to it. This isn't meant to ape that at all. It's meant to give you the idea of a premium, luxurious, small car, but of course still playing to that B-segment SUV market that's really important for Lexus. Do you think they've succeeded? I do, I genuinely do. I really like the car, and I'm not normally a lover of these two-tone style of cars, but I think in this one, I think it really works, especially in this Sonic copper colour. I really like that. But what do I know? I can't even get the name of it right. What do you think? You might be out there buying it. Do you like it? Would it tempt you? Would you rather have this than, say, something like an Audi Q2, or wandering across into the mini showroom? Or dare I suggest, would you spend extra over a Yaris Cross that you were going to buy to get the Lexus one? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, yeah? So, small car, small boot. Not necessarily. First thing is, however, look at that, electric tailgate release. Very premium feeling, and more than the Subaru Crosstrek that I tested the other week had, and more space than the Subaru Crosstrek, which is a much bigger car. That's 332 litres of boot space. Now this is a single, this is a front wheel drive car, so if you have one with the all wheel drive where there's a motor at the back, the boot space does fall by about 20 litres or so. If you fold the standard 60-40 split rear seat down, then that total capacity goes up to over 992 litres in fairness. But I tell you what, that's quite a nice usable space. It's quite deep, it's relatively square. So how deep is it? How big is 332 litres? Well, let's have a look. There's a large suitcase. That's the only downside. You've got quite a high sill to lift them over, then they drop down in. So just be aware of that if you've got a bad back. There's a medium suitcase. There's one carry-on, 2 carry-ons, and a rucksack. There you go. That's pretty good, I think. That's a good size of boot for the car, I think, for this class of car. And of course, I'm using suitcases, but let's be honest, that's going to be enough for a weekly shop, or a trip to Majestic, a couple of buggies maybe, or one big buggy, or maybe even a set of golf clubs, or 2, depending obviously on how many sticks you carry around with you. But yeah, I think that's an all right size of boot for the type of car that this is. Right, rear accommodation. Well look, let's be fair about it. You know, it's a B-segment SUV. We can't expect it to be as commodious as an LS400, can we? And it's not, obviously. But actually, you know what? It's okay, in fairness. That's my driving position. I'm 5'8". It is a small car. And actually, I can sit behind myself and I'm going to be okay. I'd be okay like this for a reasonable journey. In fairness, obviously, I wouldn't want to sit behind somebody that's cresting on 6 foot, because that would be pretty much uncomfortable. But what you find is the wells, the footwells are really deep. The battery for the hybrid system is underneath the rear bench. So you've got this more kind of stadium style seating where you sit slightly higher in the back than you do in the front, which is excellent because it gives you a good view out. It gives you nice visibility and you don't feel claustrophobic and enclosed, especially in this car, which has got the dark roof lining here and dark upholstery as well. So you want to make sure that you're not feeling too claustrophobic, and the designers and engineers have managed to achieve that, I think. There's a small transmission tunnel here, as you can see, that, you know, would make a third passenger maybe rethink about going in the middle for a long distance, but otherwise it's okay. Certainly for smaller families or younger families, dare I suggest, maybe where they've got younger children, it's going to be fine. Now you've also got good access to the ISOFIX points. They just come under behind these plastic covers, which obviously will get lost in the diatrice of storage that's in the car. But talking of storage, again, oddly enough, there's just a mat pocket on the back of the passenger seat, not one in the back of the driver's seat. Now the Subaru Crosstrek that I reviewed the same week as this car, it's the same. What is it with Japanese manufacturers not putting mat pockets on the back of both seats? Answers down below, please. Otherwise, storage is limited to a water bottle shape. I won't call them door bins, but you can get a water bottle down in the rear door bin there. There's no flip down armrest, obviously, but you do have storage, as I say, in the door bins, and you've also got connectivity by 2 USB-C ports at the back of this centre transmission tunnel. Headroom's good for me. Again, I'm only 5'8", so I've got plenty of headroom in the back here. And as I say, if there was 4 of us and I was sat behind somebody my size, I don't think there's a massive problem. As I say, I'd be okay for a good couple of hours journey in this car. The seats themselves are nice and supportive, got a good length in the squab, so that's decent enough. But as I say, for a young family, I think that makes a nice little car. But as I say, you're not going to be carrying around many basketball players back here. Now, much like the outside, when you move into the interior, again, there's not really an awful lot to reference what the car is based upon in terms of its Toyota cousin. Lexus adopt the omotenashi principle, and that is sort of like making occupants feel comfortable and welcome, and you certainly do. Sorry, it's a really hot day today, so I've got the aircon on, so that's the engine just kicked in to keep everything nice and cool. So apologies if the engine's just started, but it means I can show you all the electrics working as well. So yeah, so the first thing that you notice is this is another car from Lexus, the NX, I think was the first one that did it, that's taken the principle from the, was it the Tazuna concept? Basically what they want is everything to be really close to the driver. So everything grouped around about where the driver's hands are. So everything's just a nice stretch away. There's nothing's too much of a stretch or stretch forward to get to. You know, that's the whole principle behind it. So everything's grouped around you as a driver. And on a whole, that does appear to be the case, and it works very, very well. It's a really nice cockpit in here, really nice. And I use that word on purpose because that's how it feels. It feels like a cockpit, especially when you're looking down into this digital cluster here as well, with information that's given to you, and as I say, everything close at hand here. Whereas the Yaris has obviously its screen up here and just feels a little bit more, I don't want to say stuck on, but a little bit more of an afterthought. Lexus have actually integrated it within this centre console area. It's a 9.8 inch infotainment screen that you can see here. It's not perfect. There's a couple of things to do when you first start the car up. Let me just stop the car for a second and let's see if it does it. Sorry, the seat slides back. So if I press the car on, I wonder if I've just done that too quickly, whether it'll happen or not. Here we go. It asks you to do a couple of things first, and I found this with the Lexus, the RZ4. There you go, see? You've got to press that continue, and then you've got to agree to terms and use and privacy notice. It's a bit of a faff, isn't it? Why do you have to do that? It's the same with the Lexus RZ450 I tested for Auto EV last year, and I found it quite annoying, and it's annoying here as well. Anyway, there we go. So yeah, so you've got 9.8 inch screen here, 6 little pixels there. You press that, and then here you go. You've got your swipe through screen with your tiles, depending on what you want to do. It's all grouped quite nicely. So comfort and convenience, frequently used. So if you want to change something that you frequently use, such as the lane departure alert system, blind spot monitoring, The head-up display on this one there, they're grouped in those 4 icons there. So you just press that, so it's 1, 2 stage. That's it. So I don't mind that so much. That's quite good that you only have a couple of steps to go through it. And then of course you've got others such as your head-up display here. What else is through here? And then there's your full thing of driver assistance modes. And there's a huge amount of them. So lane departure, parking brake support, safe exit, assist. So it lets you know if somebody's coming alongside you on a bike or something. Rear camera detection, all those things. Rear cross traffic. Where were we? If you leave it too long, it goes off again. Proactive driving assist. What's that? Oh no, let's take that off. I don't want that. And then close there. Okay, notification cannot be started. Okay, don't know what that is. So that's your main tiles there, but navigation's there, and then your shortcut buttons are down the side of the screen. So music and media, telephone, car settings. So there you go there again. You can go into driver assist, and there's all your other bits there that you had those shortcuts to before. Go back out of that. Trip info, energy flow, if you want to see where the hybrid system sending the power to, you can watch that. Don't know how it does it. Tyre pressure monitoring, that type of thing. Again, just any connected menus, because obviously you've got an app with the car, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And then there's your settings there. So for setting up Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, your display, your navigation. Again, as is the case with a lot of these things, you're not going to be going into this every day to sort of change things. Once you've set most things up, you're going to leave it. Also, it comes with Apple CarPlay, which is wireless, but it's wired if you're an Android Auto user, and you've got your USB ports there for that. So if you're like me and you just get in, you connect up to Apple CarPlay, and then you use the Apple Maps or Google Maps or whatever, you'll use that instead of the inbuilt navigation. But in fairness, the inbuilt navigation that Toyota use is better, and the clarity of the Lexus screens now are so much better. Just a few short years ago when I was testing the UX300e on Auto EV, it really felt like it was about 5 or 6 generations away from what the likes of Audi, Mercedes, BMW were doing. Now it's really up there with them, so they've got a much better kind of clarity round about the screen and the graphics. Even the fonts that they use are much clearer to read and easier to see, so that's excellent. You do have a climate menu here, so you're reading out here for your heated seats. You need them today, obviously. That's on the screen there, and then the readout there for the climate menu, and you can adjust your fan speed there. But your temperature controls are actually here on physical switches at the side. So they're physical switches. So again, if you're driving around, like I was saying, that principle is if you're just driving along, it's just a hand stretch away and you can feel the switch rather than having to look at the screen. So that's excellent. Plus the automatic climate, front demist, heated rear screen and mirrors, and then syncing up both sides. So that's all your screen system there. As I say, you've got connectivity below that, hazard warnings, camera view, because there's a 360 degree camera on this particular car, which is excellent. What's that doing? There you go. You can see a kind of bird's eye view of the car and what's around it from there. I never know how these things work, but I am always impressed by them. So that's superb. So that's there, and then there's a parking assist as well, where it will obviously help you park the car should you need to. Let's move up into the driver's display now, which you can configure. And you do that via these buttons here. Now these are quite cool. I quite like this because they are sort of slightly touch sensitive, but you can also just use them as clicking buttons as well. So it depends how easily you get on with a touch sensitive button. They can be both. You can change the configuration of this dial set here by pressing this first, and then it comes up on your head-up display to show you what to do. Now that I do like. Yeah, so if I want to change displays, now tell me to change the left or the right button to get the display that I want. So, if you want it, so it's got a big dial in the middle with a speedo and an economy meter, a power meter and a compass, and then your audio or your media display here on the left, you can have that. Or if you're like me and you quite like it, where's the other one that I like? Setting 2, so you've got your nav in front of you here, so you leave your media over here, and I put my navigation in this screen here. So that's excellent. So you can change that depending obviously on what you want. It does display an awful lot of information. There's a lot in there, which is something that Lexus and Toyota do with all of their cars. There's a lot to read in there, but as I say, the clarity of it and the font that they use means that you can see it at a quick glance. There's a really excellent head-up display as well on this particular car, and that's obviously dependent on trim. And like the configuration you can do here, you can also configure that using these buttons as well to show you what information you particularly want. Over on your left hand side, what you have here, again, if you press that bottom button, it comes up on the head-up display for your track selection, your source button, changing your audio on and off, and then obviously what you then have is your volume controls. And it's superb. I love the way it shows you up on the head-up display. So although, you know, until your fingers get used to where everything is, you're seeing it without taking your eye off the road. Really simple way of doing it, but I really like how Lexus do that. It's excellent. Column stocks, as you'd expect to find, lights with automatic settings, obviously over on the left hand side here, with your indicators and your wipers over on the right. Your door switch pack is just down to electric mirrors and electric windows, and down by my right knee I've got the 3-position memory for the electric driver's seat. It's manual adjustment on the passenger seat, electric on the driver's seat, and also there's a fuel cap release and a electric tailgate release down here. Let me talk about the materials now, because that is one area that you're really going to notice a big difference with a lot of cars in the class when you jump in the Lexus. It feels premium in here, and again, they've really knocked it out the park with the materials in here. Like a soft, spongy kind of rubber dashboard at the top there. That's lovely, and it's really matte and finished, so you don't really get a reflection up on the screen. It's just the head-up display that you see. Now, this particular car, as I say, I did get the name right eventually, is the original edition, so it gets this kind of suede, this micro suede with leather trim. There's obviously various different trim levels throughout the car, throughout the range, which we'll talk about in the pricing section, and that will depend obviously on which one you go for as to what trim level you get and what trim is like in here. But I really like this one because it feels premium to touch. It's nice with the little strips of leather in it, but it's nice with that micro sort of like fibre suede Alcantara in the centre of the seat and on the dashboard as well. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, and if you are, thank you very much, I do appreciate it, and you've watched my review of the new Mini, I love that car. What I don't like about it is they fitted a really thick steering wheel. This is the size of wheel it should have. This is absolutely, it's just thick enough. And again, like typical Lexus, it's a real soft touch wheel. You can really feel the sponginess of it as you grip your hands around it, and it feels just nice to the touch as well. You've got 2 paddles behind here, which are a little bit plasticky, and I'll talk about what they do when we're out driving it. And just some of the lower plastics, obviously, you can feel it a bit. But I'm going to forgive that because the rest of it is so good, you know, so I don't mind that so much at all. A couple of other things of note as well is the door handles. Remember I was saying outside they've got that soft touch, they're just it's the same on the inside, so there isn't a pull thing. You just push the switch and it opens it, and just, oh, listen to that, sounds just like a Golf. That's a really nice door close. That feels solid and a real thunk. I can understand why my dad loved Lexus so much, because he was a real OCD kind of guy about things like that. You've got a driver alert system, as is kind of law now, there in front of you. So again, if you are taking your eyes off the road, it will tell you what you're doing. So that's what that little strip there is. So that's what that is. Right, storage. Cup holder at front. There's a second one here. However, if you don't want that, what you do is you slide the armrest back over it, and you don't need to have it. You can just have the one. So it's up to you. Plus as well, you've got storage in there. Oh, it's deep enough, good enough for some Mars bars and stuff. Oh, you can slide that to the side. I didn't realise that. The cup holder you can actually slide, so you can just have an open. Oh, that's good. If you don't need it as a cup holder. Well, every day's a school day, folks. Wireless charging pad down there. I love Lex's little kind of pistol grip shift lever down here. You get the button P for park, but the rest of it you've got to pull back on it to go into drive or whatever. Automatic hold, electric park brake, and then 3 buttons down here. Your dynamic stability control, your eco mode and your EV mode, which is for driving in electric mode only. Last bit of storage is just underneath this floating console here, and the door bins aren't particularly long in the front, but like the back, they're deep enough. They'll take my Sonny's, my big sunglasses case in there, but not much else. And you do get a glove box which will fit a set of gloves in it, absolutely. I love the way the face vents are also neatly integrated into the strip along the top of the dash there. Now, of course, it's in line with the power button there, and the original edition car gets a little plaque over there. Last thing to discuss is the driving position itself, which is superb. Really nice, comfortable seats. I say it's electric on this particular car. Not all of them will have. As I say, I love the steering wheel in terms of how it is to hold. Its design is okay, but I love the little touch pads here that show up on the head-up display. That's what I do like. And it's also adjustable for reach and for rake as well. So excellent. So on the whole, brilliant interior. Does feel a real step up from the Toyota, and the Toyota one is really good in terms of usability. It's a really good interior to use on the Yaris Cross. I like it. This feels just a bit better designed, a bit more homogeneous in its design, and a bit easier to see. I love Lexus's typeface. As I say, this is quite busy, but it's relatively easy to see things at a glance. Apart from the silly sign-in things on this, which is really annoying and I don't see the point of, that's decent enough to use. There's enough physical buttons that most people will get on with it. The head-up display with these buttons here, absolutely brilliant. I love that. And I say the quality of the materials, you know, as I say, you really can't fault it. Nor should you at the price of the car, in fairness, but it really does feel like something quite special when you step inside. What it feels like is a Lexus, and that's exactly what they were going for. Great interior. Right, time to get technical now with the engine, which is not just lifted straight from the Yaris. In fairness to Lexus, they have spent a bit of time on it, making it more, dare I suggest, of Lexus' signature. What they should have done, in my opinion, is fit gas struts to the bonnet. Serious, that just feels a bit cheap to me. Wish they'd put gas struts on that. Right, what have we got here? Well, we have a hang on. There we go. What we have here is a 1.5 litre 3-cylinder engine, mated to a CVT transmission and Lexus hybrid system. But Lexus have gone quite a bit, as I say. They've not just lifted the engine straight out of the Yaris and plopped it in there. 134 brake horsepower, which is a little bit more than you get out of the Yaris, and 184 Newton meters of torque. It's front wheel drive. However, you can have it as an all-wheel drive in the top two Takumi models, which adds an additional electric motor to the rear axle. So it's not drive from the engine, it's an electric motor that's mounted there. But what it will do, it's a very clever system, and it can put as much as 80% of the power to the rear of the car if it detects traction being lost at the front. So it'll split as much as, its normal setup is 100% front, 0 at the rear, but it will split it to as much as 80 at the back, 20 at the front if it needed with that. Right, what have Lexus done? Well, refinement's a big thing with Lexus, and I'm going to talk a lot more about that when we're out driving the car. And it's not just a case of like sticking in a load of sound deadening, because that would be the easy thing to do, and Lexus doesn't do stuff easy. They get down into it. So you've got a new balancer shaft system, a balancer shaft that's fitted to the engine as well to stop some of the noise, vibration and harshness in there. Plus they've paid particular attention to the flex joints around about the structure of the car as well. Underneath here as well, as I say, we'll talk about it when we're out, but there's a different suspension system at the front as well, which also helps with that too. Now, as I say, you've also got a hybrid system. So what you have at the back of the car, as I say, mounted under the rear seats, is a battery that's a bipolar nickel metal hydride battery. And that's derived from the same one that they use in their very, very large RX model as well. And that's designed for its different chemistry and things, and it allows power to be drawn from it much quicker, so it allows the performance to be a little bit better and a little bit more instantaneous as well. But as I say, it's not exactly a quick car, this, which kind of goes against sort of like the Lexus ethos of what we've had before with its 6-cylinder and V8 engines, but it is a hybrid. And if there's one thing that Lexus and Toyota do very well, it's hybrids. So let's take it out on the open road and see what we think. So the outside looks different to the car in which it's based. The inside is very different to the car in which it's based. So it's lulled you in with all of that. Does it feel different to drive than the car on which it's based? Yes, yes it does. Obviously it's a small car. Obviously it's a B segment SUV. And there's nothing wrong with those. You know, they're obviously, as I say, they're a very popular segment of car. 1 in every 5 new cars sold in Europe today is, you know, this size of car. So people do like them. So there's no point in sort of like expecting huge performance, or you know, sort of like, you know, as quiet as like a church library. But I tell you what, in terms of that last bit, it's not far off, which is probably the most impressive bit of the car's change, you know, that Lexus engineers have made to it. So I'll get onto that in a second. So basically what we've got here is the 1.5 litre 3-cylinder engine mated to an electronically controlled CVT gearbox. It puts out 134 brake horsepower, so it's a little bit more powerful than the Yaris Cross. 0 to 60 is 9.8 seconds. Now, if I accelerate there, you get that sort of like, you know, 3-cylinder sound engine, but as soon as I come off, and as soon as I'm just on a light throttle application, the engine noise all but disappears. So it's only really that initial sort of like, you know, acceleration where the engine makes itself known to you. And obviously at lower speeds, because it's a hybrid, you know, as you're pulling out of a junction and you're not really sort of like pushing, you know, the accelerator down, or you're moving off from a roundabout or whatever, then it's going to use the hybrid system, it's going to use the electric motor more. So it's going to be even quieter. And as I say, it's at this sort of like speed here, this, you know, okay, we're in a 40 mile an hour zone here, we're travelling along under light throttle. In fact, actually, it's just flipped to EV mode. It tells you on the dash if it's in electric mode. That's the only way you can really tell. In fact, it's just gone off, but the engine's back on, and you can't hear it. So it's only under heavy throttle application is when you hear that engine note, and it becomes very much un-Lexus-like. All the rest of the time, it is very quiet. It is very refined, you know, for such a small car. Now, Lexus haven't sort of like portrayed this as a sporty car, but perversely, it's probably one of the sportiest feeling, I think, in its class. Now, that's helped in part because it's got a slightly wider track at the front to the Yaris, so it's got a little bit more grip as you turn in. It sits a bit lower as well, as I say, it's not got that kind of SUV type of stance, so it does have that more kind of nimble feel to it. You do sit lower, you know, sort of like than you do in the Yaris Cross, so there's not such a high rise driving position. And the suspension, well, it's not floaty, it's not Citroen-like. You do feel that there's a particularly bad bump here. I mean, you do feel that, but it's not uncomfortable. It's not a jarring jolt that goes through the car. So there's a firmness to the suspension that makes you think that actually everything's it's in control of what's happening to the body, to the structure of the car. The suspension's coping well with it. Now, talking about the suspension, they changed quite a bit under the skin of the car. As I say, they haven't just taken a Yaris Cross, stuck a new body on it and a posh badge and trimmed the interior differently. Not at all. They've properly re-engineered this. So the engine, as I say, as well as okay, yes, it comes as well as having more power, it has a balancer shaft added to it now to aid with sort of like, you know, keeping the noise from the unit down as much as it can. There's been work done to the flex joints in the body structure to eliminate sort of like intrusion from exterior noises. The front suspension is different as well. They've tuned it differently. It has a new McPherson strut arrangement up front to give a bit more rigidity, and also it's a bit lighter as well. So, you know, again, it's not such a heavy feel to the front of the car. I mean, you know, most manufacturers wouldn't bother with any of that, and in some respects, you know, as I say, the Yaris Cross is such a good little car. In so many ways, they maybe could have got away with doing nothing and just gone, there you go, and you'd have gone, actually, yeah, this is quite nice, because the Yaris itself is a nice car. But that isn't the Lexus way. Lexus want to change things to make it feel like a Lexus, and that's what they've done. And I am really, really impressed with this little car. It feels properly grown up. It feels properly premium as you're driving it. As I say, if it, you know, apart from the performance, apart from that, you know, as you put your foot down, if you really engage, kind of kick down, it's silent. I mean, yeah, see, at the moment, I couldn't tell you the engine is on, and you can't hear it. And I am just accelerating up to 50 miles an hour now on this 50 mile an hour dual carriageway. Can't hear the engine at all. Let me have, oh sorry, the last thing to discuss on the refinement is depending on the model you get. So the upper models get a acoustic glass, and they also get active noise cancelling. So you know the active noise stuff that comes from the speakers of the car to cancel out the other noises. The top models get that, not the lower ones. So if it's a lower model you're looking at, make sure you give it a drive on most surfaces, but I'd be surprised if it's much worse than this, because this is really nice. Right, let me move on now. Gearbox, so the ECVT gearbox. Again, on the top models, the Takumi models, or this one, the original edition, you get these additions of these paddle shifters behind the steering wheel here, which does allow you to select 6 different stages within the transmission. I'll stop short of calling them gears, but yeah, you can flick down as you're coming up to say a roundabout to engage more engine braking rather than use the actual brakes itself. If you remain in the D mode, which obviously this is in, then eventually what will then happen is it will just default back to the drive unit. But what you can also do is bring it back into the S mode, sport mode, where it will no longer do that, where in other words it will now wait for you to engage them as well. But as I say, that's only available on the top models. It's a particularly nice box. I've never been a fan of CVTs, and obviously I was driving the Subaru Crosstrek recently, which is a CVT gearbox, and it's nowhere near as good as Toyota and Lexus's ones at all. So this is certainly one of the better ones that I have driven. So that's the gearbox, that's the transmission. The ride quality, as I say, let me just pull that back. How do you get that? Oh, no, that's not it. D, there we go. What was I saying? Oh, right, yeah, the suspension. The suspension's nice, as I say. There is a compliancy to it, but as I say, you feel what's happening underneath it. You're not completely isolated, or so not removed from the surface, but you're isolated from the roughness of it, if that makes sense. So that's excellent, that's really good. The downside maybe is because you've got a little bit of a lower ride height, there isn't as much wheel travel as you get in the Toyota, and therefore, you know, there's maybe not as much compliance in it. And of course, you've got to just watch as well, you know, if you're going into, so like, I don't know, a National Trust car park that's not paved or whatever, you know, or things like that, just, or, you know, going over speed bumps, just take your time over them, because you'll certainly feel them if you take them at too much speed. Right, the brakes. And the brakes are okay, actually. Brakes are quite nice. There's a relatively nice pedal feel. There's nothing behind me. Let me just. Yeah, that felt good. That was a nice, you know, proper linear stop. It felt like there was power in the pedal. It felt like you were actually doing it. There's just enough servo assistance. That's excellent. I like that. The steering's a tiny bit vague, but again, you know, it's not the car that's encouraging you to hustle it down the road. It's all right. I mean, obviously it turns the wheels. It does what it's meant to do. And actually, it's quite a manoeuvrable little car. That's the other thing you've got to remember with it. We know with these little B-segment SUVs. You know, if you're in a tight car park, as I say, you're out at a National Trust property, you're in a tight multi-storey at Sainsbury's or Tesco's, other supermarkets are available. You know, then it's going to do the job. I mean, you've got a fairly tight wee roundabout. Yeah, let's have a. Yeah, I mean, that's not even lock to lock, and that got round quite nicely. And one big swip of an arm movement. So yeah, steering's good. It's vague, as I say, if you're trying to sort of like throw it down a back road, but you don't want to. It's not what the car is about. It is electronically assisted, as you'd expect, and again, Lexus have tuned it to its own likings. So again, it's different to what you know what you would experience, as I say, in the Toyota and the Yaris. There's a couple of different driving modes down here. Let me just explain those to you, and then we're fairly much done. So you've got an eco mode, which if I press that, it just dulls everything down a little bit. So you've got to be a bit more deliberate on the throttle. It's not as bad as some of the eco modes you get in the electric cars that I drive on O2 EV, you know, where it really feels like nothing's happening at all. So there is a little bit of you know, a little bit more movement needed, but not much, in fairness. Actually, it's quite nice, actually. I don't mind that in eco mode. Let's take it back off. And then there's a button next to it called EV mode. Now that is for when, you know, you really are just wanting to run an electric power alone. There's a little Depending also on how you've configured the dash, there's a little power flow meter up on the dashboard that will show you how much power is in the battery. And they are small batteries, you know, they're not, it's not some, you know, big sort of like 50 kilowatt unit you're lugging around. You know, they are much smaller now. So if you stick it into EV mode, that's the unavailable speed range exceeded, right? So it's at low speed that it will decide it's going into EV, but then it's decided on its, oh no, it's just come off there because there was that. So if you're going around, say, like maybe, because I'm up on this open road, maybe that's why. So if you're round about town and you just want to slip along silently, you know, you're going into maybe into London or you know one of the cities, and you want to just go into the, I mean, obviously it's going to go through one of the low emission zones anyway because of the low emissions the car produces. But you can even do even better. You can go into pure EV mode, and the car will do it, you know, and you'll just flip it into itself. Right, I'm babbling now, which I do a lot. I appreciate. What have we got? Well, we've got a car that's really impressive. We've got a car that feels worthy of the badge that's on the front of it. I think, you know, it's not. It's a different car to what Lexus have done before. You know, don't expect it just to feel like a small LS400 because it doesn't have the performance. And as I say, you can, under certain circumstances, hear that engine. But that doesn't necessarily make it a bad car, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not worthy of having the Lexus badge on the front, because I think it really is. Because what you're left with is, when you just come off a little bit, and when you're just driving normally, which, let's be honest, most of us do. Nobody does drag racing not to 60 times on runways like you see on YouTube or a certain TV program with three idiots driving around. When you're driving normally, like us people normally do, this is lovely. This is really nice. There is a firmness to the suspension, there is a sportiness underneath the car, which does make you wonder whether or not Lexus have got further plans for it, you know, maybe with an additional model. They have shown a concept that uses the GR Yaris's powertrain. That could be an interesting car. But on the whole, for going about your business on a daily basis, this is lovely. This is really nice. That little engine, you know, as I say, when you're under light throttle load, you can't hear it. You can't hear that there's a little 1.53 cylinder engine up front. And as I say, the number of times that it's going in and out of EV mode, I genuinely don't feel it. You certainly can't hear it, you certainly can't feel it. And with the refinement that the car you get with the car in terms of the wind noise, this is lovely. I really like it. Now, I said at the start that there's only 4 trim levels, except for there's 5, which I got the name of this one wrong, calling it the Open Edition, which is called the Original Edition. I'll never get that one out of my head. Anyway, there's actually more than that. There's sort of trim levels within trim levels, so bear with me on this. If you take them all into consideration, there's 7. Really, okay, it starts with the Urban, which is 29,995, so a good starting point, and a good starting point in this market space, bearing in mind it's a premium badge car. Okay, keep that in mind. So £30,000 is where the LBX range starts at with the Urban model. You then move up to the Premium, okay, but the Premium you can then enhance a little bit with the Premium Plus and the Premium Plus design, okay? So there's another 2 trims within that Premium trim, if that makes sense. You then jump to the next trim level up, which is Takumi, and then with the Takumi you also have a Takumi design trim within that one as well. And it's those top 2 Takumis that you can get the all-wheel drive one with. So you can't get it with the Premiums or the Urban. If you want the rear motor to give you the all-wheel drive, it's got to be a Takumi car that you get, okay? And that top of the range Takumi design all-wheel drive is your top of the range, 40,555, and obviously these prices are correct obviously at time of filming. And then there's obviously this car, the Original Edition, which is round about that sort of money, but as I say, effectively this is a Takumi design but front wheel drive. Now, I normally get a little bit disappointed when I first look at Lexus's warranty and look at it's only 3 years. That's not strictly true, in fairness to Lexus, because the thing is, yes, it states you get a 3-year warranty with the car. However, if you continuously service the car at your Lexus dealer or within the Lexus servicing network, every time you service it every year, Lexus will then add on another year's warranty onto that. So by the time your third year service is there and your warranty is about to run out, if you service it with Lexus and you've been doing so up till then, they put another year warranty, so you get a 4th year warranty, and then they'll add it on for every year up to 10 years. So effectively you can get a 10-year warranty on the Lexus, just like you can with Toyota. So do bear that in mind. So it is worthwhile going through the Lexus dealer network to ensure that you keep that warranty in place. And the one thing that I will say, and I don't think it's much different now, I mean, as much as my father, God rest his soul, passed away a long time ago, he never had a bad word to say about Lexus dealers. They were always superb in terms of the way that they treated him as a customer, even though it wasn't a particularly brand new car at the end of the time he had with the Lexus. He said the service that he got from them was absolutely outstanding, and they've always done very, very well, in surveys such as the JD Power survey and other consumer surveys as well. So bear that in mind. If you continuously use Lexus dealers for your servicing, the car can get up to 10-year warranty, which I think is superb. Now, when I was thinking the other day about this review, and I was trying to think about rivals, competition for the car, I mean, if you think about it, B segment SUV, largest sector in Europe. 1 in 5 new cars sold today is this class of car. There should be loads of them, but of course what we're talking about here is a premium badge, and that's where the wheels fall off that particular wagon a little bit, and you've got to think maybe a little bit outside the box. So in some respects, if you just think of B segment SUVs, what's out there? There's loads. Most manufacturers have one. Peugeot 2008, Vauxhall Mokka, Toyota Yaris Cross obviously, Renault Captur, Fiat 600, which can have as a hybrid as well as this car, Jeep Avenger, all those kind of cars. But as I say, you've got to bear in mind that Lexus are saying that they're the first sort of premium badge within the sector. And in many ways that is true in some respects. Now Audi have the Q2, which is an oddball little car, I think. And I suppose, yeah, it is, because it sits below the A3, which is a C-sector hatchback, so it is going to be a B-sector SUV, isn't it? So Audi do have the Q2. They're not going to replace that car, I'm led to believe, when it comes to the end of its model life. So, and I've never really quite got on with the style of the Audi. I do think it's a bit of an odd-looking little car. But there you go, the Audi Q2. You could have obviously maybe put down Mini before with the Countryman, but of course the Countryman is a much bigger car now. It's not so much Mini, it's Maxi. But Mini are bringing out a car this year called the Aceman, which is very much this size of car, but it's all electric. So again, that's a car you probably are going to consider, because in terms of its price point, it's 35 to around about £40,000. But as I say, bear in mind, it is all electric, whereas obviously the LBX is hybrid. So if you're not quite convinced about the all electric route yet, this is what you have. Now there's 2 cars there that I mentioned which you might go, hang on a minute Brian, I thought they were electric as well. The Fiat 600 and the Jeep Avenger. They were, but you can now have them as a hybrid as well. So Stellantis have got a little bit of itchy feet when it comes to sort of like full EV models, and they've gone kind of back on what they were going to do and offer the 600 from Fiat and the Avenger from Jeep as a hybrid system. But in fairness, as much as I like those cars, they don't have the premium feel of the Lexus, and dare I suggest they don't have the premium price. So it's not quite as clear cut when you're thinking about competition, because you've got to position the Lexus a little bit further up market in terms of the equipment you get with it, the quality of the materials, and the quality of the engineering in it as well. But if it's just a B segment crossover SUV you're looking for, take your pick. Luxurious small cars are not a new thing. Plenty of people have done them before. As I say, you only have to look back. The Austin Allegro became the Van den Plas 1500. Stick a big chrome grille on it, some walnut door cappings and some leather inside an Allegro, and you've got a luxury car. Even like the Rover, when they had the Metron, which obviously then became the 100, I say they did exactly that. They put some leather from the Rover 800 sterling in it and some wood door cappings and said, oh, look at the luxurious little car we've built. The Fiesta Ghia, the Nova CDX, all those kind of things. There's plenty of them. That's not what this is. This is a premium manufacturer downsizing. That's the difference. And as I say, if you look at the competitors, which Lexus have always judged itself against, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, Jaguar, none of them have quite got it right in their own badge. BMW's come the closest because obviously it bought Mini, and that turned that into a very sort of style conscious and sometimes very luxurious cars, and I'm a big Mini fan. But Lexus have really gone at pains. I mean, they've taken what is essentially a great small B segment SUV in the Yaris Cross and turned it into a Lexus. They've by not just sticking a Lexus badge on it, they've made it feel like a Lexus. And that's the key. That's the difference with this car over many others. No, it's not particularly quick. You'd expect a Lexus moved a bit quicker. And when you do put your foot down, the engine can get a little bit thrashy. But on the whole, for 99% of the time, you're not to know that you're not driving something that is a lot bigger and a lot more, dare I suggest, befitting of the Lexus badge than this small B segment SUV. I think this is a real brilliant moment for Lexus. I really do. I think they've done something really quite clever. They've done something that no one else has really managed to do, and they've done it well. And they've done it in a way that only Lexus can manage. Yes, there probably are better cars out there, but at the moment, I think this is probably the best Lexus you can buy. Thank you once again for watching another new car review on House of Cars. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you do, please make sure you give it a wee thumbs up. And of course, please, we're still quite new, would you make sure that you're subscribed as well, because I do rely on those subscription numbers. So please, thank you in advance. I really do appreciate it if you can be a subscriber. Remember, once you've done that, press the bell button, because that way you'll get notified when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live as well. So, you know, I'm trying to do a video a week, and along with obviously the other stuff that I do for Auto EV, which I'll talk to you about in a minute, there's plenty of content coming. And there's plenty of content already there on the channel, and if you've been a subscriber so far, thank you for your support. Right, if you're interested in electric cars, I don't do electric cars here, I do hybrids and internal combustion and classics. If you're interested in electric cars, take a look at Auto EV, because you'll find all the latest new electric vehicles that are on sale in the UK over on the other channel that I present on, which is Auto EV, so take a little look over there. You can also support me by going onto Instagram and finding me at House of Cars 1973, so a little follow there would be helpful as well. And remember, if it's small cars or even big cars, if it's slow cars or it's fast cars, old cars and new cars, you're going to find them all here in the House of Cars. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you again soon.